Hello everyone, welcome to Lit Lessons with GCS Memes today. It's going to be a real short and sharp introduction because I really want to keep my videos under the 10-minute mark. Now today, we're going to be looking at JB Priestley's and Inspector Calls, and we'll be looking at the character of Sheila, who hasn't come up very recently in the GCSE examinations I've looked at, particularly when it comes to Edexcel. And we're going to be doing some character analysis of her and looking at her development. Not necessarily looking so much at extract-based bits because those aren't regularly done for GCSE Inspector Calls responses. So, who is Sheila? Now, first of all, I think it's really important we look at the stage directions in the play. And in this case, we have these stage directions. Sheila is a pretty girl in her early 20s. And this immediately gives us a hint of what she is like as a person. The word pretty is used. It shows that she obviously cares about her appearance and is probably quite proud of the way in which she looks. And also this word girl is used. Now I think that's really significant because that word is used regularly by the character to describe young women. Remember, Sheila here is actually in her early 20s, so it technically is not a girl, it's actually a woman. But even from the stage directions we get this hint that she is treated more like a child. We'll come back to that. Now, the words that I would also use to describe her, or the things that I think of when I think of Sheila at the start, is that she's the daughter of Arthur Burling and the fiancée of Gerald Croft. So she is essentially owned by men. She is Arthur Burling's property to give away, and he has chosen to give her away to Gerald Croft. All right, and that's quite a significant choice of husband for Sheila to have, and we'll come to talk about that too. But essentially what you're meant to get from this is that she is under the ownership of men immediately from the start of this text. She's also, we find out, a regular shopper at Millward's department store, something similar to, by modern day standards I suppose, Selfridges, and she uses her power and her loyalty to that store to get what she wants when it comes to treating Eva Smith the way she does. But she's also a symbol of the future. Now, this is quite a dark text we've got here in Inspector Calls, but the way in which Sheila develops, and that's what we're going to be especially looking at now, we actually start to see her as a symbol of hope for the future. And actually, I think this is really important for you to realise, is that in GCSE literature texts, and in all literature, I suppose, young characters always represent the future. And the way that Sheila ends the text actually gives us a bit of a sense of hope for what's to come in the real world. Now, we're going to have a look now at how she starts and how she develops and how she ends the play throughout her portrayal. So at the start, she is spoiled and infantilized, and we'll talk about that word infantilized now, okay? She essentially is treated as a child, even though she's in her mid-20s or early mid-20s. She uses the terms mummy and daddy before meeting the inspector, and these are really, really important words because it shows you that she is essentially making herself to be more childlike as well, even though she is certainly not a child. And those words do begin to change later on in the text, as you'll see. She's certainly under the control of men, as we've already said, and this is backed up by her referring to the ring as such. She actually says to Gerald upon receiving the engagement ring, "Is it the one you wanted me to have?" Now, when I think of engagement rings from a modern day standard, I always think the woman has kind of more of an interest in making sure the ring is the one they want to have as opposed to the man's choice. And for this reason, it shows you Gerald's complete authority over her at this point in the text. There are hints as well that the marriage that she is having or planning to have with Gerald is a bit of an arranged affair, and Burling actually makes a bit of a speech in which he says that you've brought us together to Gerald and Sheila in reference to his company and Gerald's father's company, Crofts Limited. And it appears he's more pleased with the marriage going through, not because his daughter loves Gerald, but because it will be good for his business. And that becomes even more important later on in the text because when Sheila finds out that Gerald has been unfaithful to her, Burling actually tries to hide things for Gerald, showing he wants to protect Gerald and his business interests rather than his own daughter's feelings. And we do get this impression that she's ignorant to the world around her, because she has no idea of this infidelity, this cheating that Gerald did last year with Daisy Renton. She simply jokes and laughs and mocks about it to some extent. Now, she develops very, very quickly in the play. And upon hearing that her father was involved in the sacking of Eva Smith, she actually says these girls aren't cheap labour, they're people. And this is quite a socialist message straight away in the play from Sheila. It shows you, obviously, she does not believe in the sort of capitalist world she's been brought up in. And that is significant because she changes even more rapidly as things continue. Once she finds out about her own role in Eva Smith's death, she actually admits and takes responsibility immediately. And this helps the audience to actually find themselves endearing themselves towards Sheila. They actually start to like her as a character, rather than laugh at her when she was saying mummy and daddy earlier. And really interesting is she begins to mock other characters, and she refers to Gerald as the wonderful fairy prince when discussing his affair with Daisy Renton, which shows that she recognises Gerald obviously loving the fact that he had power over Daisy Renton in his affair. And significantly, straight away after meeting the inspector, her word choice has changed. She stops saying mummy and daddy and actually starts saying mother and father quite regularly throughout the text, which again shows you how quickly she changes throughout that. And then it comes towards the end, and that's where we see even more of a change in her. She becomes more mature. She refers to her parents as being the childish ones in the whole investigation. And there's this lovely word here, subversion, which basically means things are turned on their head when it comes to maturity levels. She is now the more mature person, taking responsibility and trying to teach others rather than her family members, Arthur, Mr. Burling, and Sybil, Mrs. Burling. She's definitely changed permanently as well, and I still can't forget as a line that she uses to show that she's unlikely to go back to living in this capitalist bubble that she was living in before. Even her father notices a change in her, and he's not got great track record of making good perceptions, but he no longer refers to her as a girl as he does regularly throughout the text, and even the stage directions do, as we saw earlier, but refers to her as a young woman at the end, which shows you he's noticed that she's beginning to change too. And significantly, she does something incredibly uncharacteristic for a woman in 1912. She rejects the proposal of Gerald. He tries to give the ring back after she gave it to him after hearing about the affair, and she says, no, not yet, I must think, which would have been very unheard of at the time with which this play was set. Now, I'm going to ask you here to pause this part of the video just to help you make your notes, alright? I don't want to go repeating myself, so for that reason, feel free to have a look through this and pause the video so that you can have a little bit of a look at the development of this character as I've summarised here. To end the video today, I've got a few more questions for you to do. One of them is just about Sheila herself. The other is about how characters change, so you can consider how certain characters change, such as Eric, who's another character who significantly changes in the play, as well as looking at how characters don't change, for example, Mr. Burling. I will again put a full text of Inspector Calls in the description so that you can access that. And just don't forget, guys, when it comes to looking at GCSE style questions, when it comes to Inspector Calls, you must refer to context, so do that in your responses as well, please. And today's meme. I used a SpongeBob SquarePants meme. Thought it'd be nice and simple for you to look at and to show you the development of Sheila. And I just finished by saying if there's any more requests, feel free to write them in the comments. Please follow our Instagram page and like and subscribe this as well for more videos. Thank you for your time.